Aparna Desai. Aparna will lead the Q&A during the last segment of today's webinar. So please submit your questions throughout the presentation. This will give us time to organize the questions as well as a chance to answer some of those questions immediately via GoToWebinar. Let's begin with the agenda. First, I'll provide everyone with a brief summary of GuiXT Technology and the benefits of implementing our solution with your SAP ERP processes. I will then introduce our customer speaker who used GuiXT to address a number of challenges that surfaced almost immediately after going live with their SAP application. Following this portion of the presentation, Aparna will address as many questions as possible before the hour is up. Any questions that we are unable to tackle during this webinar will be answered via email. Embedded in SAP, GuiXT is a customizable scripting technology developed by Synactive. GuiXT enables SAP users to make user interface enhancements without having to change the configuration or underlying ABAP code. And since no modifications are being made to the back end, any and all future upgrades are a cinch. In fact, all enhancements and customizations can be transferred to a new SAP product release without any redevelopment. Because GuiXT works across all the SAP modules, and because it resides at the presentation layer, all of your security and authorizations remain intact. Having GuiXT technology means you can simplify and speed up all your SAP transactions with one solution. Create fast data entry and fewer screens across your entire SAP system, including CRM, SCM, SRM, and PLM components. As many of you may already know, GuiXT comes bundled with SAP. And if you didn't already know that, then let me show you how to find it. It's really quite simple. To get started, just click on the tricolored icon on your SAP GUI screen and select Activate GuiXT. And yes, it really is that easy. From sales and distribution to product lifecycle management to inventory control, Synactive provides end-to-end solutions for simplifying and customizing SAP applications for any industry solution. Our desktop solution enables you to design a user interface for easier navigation. Developer helps make your SAP interface easy to change without the need for ABAP or Java coding. Our new Office solution enables users to move data from Excel and PDF to SAP and back again. And Web UI gives users access to their SAP database from a web browser. GuiXT's mobile solution delivers a fast, effective solution for your mobile workforce. Our offline solutions suite allows remote users to create SAP transactions that will automatically synchronize when a connection becomes available. And GuiXT Access extends SAP connectivity securely via BlackBerry, iPhone, and Android by providing a customized user interface that allows you to align specific business transactions to a user's specific roles and responsibilities. Now, without further ado, allow me to introduce our customer speaker today, William Immer, Vice President of Information Systems. Take it away, Bill.
Thanks, Dan. Hello, everyone. My name is Bill Immer, and I'm the IT manager at Butler Supply. A little bit about Butler Supply. Butler Supply is a electrical and plumbing wholesaler based out of St. Louis, Missouri. We buy and sell electrical and plumbing products mainly to small and medium contractors and home builders and industrials. We have 27 locations and 200 employees. And we have about 300,000 billing documents per year. We stock 13,000 SKUs. We've been in business for 70 years in 2011. Butler Supply selected and went live with SAP in April of 2009. We're running EC6 Enhancement Pack 2, and we run the core of SAP only right now. We're currently working to implement WM and e-commerce. We run on a Microsoft Windows, Microsoft SQL Server platform, and we also have, in addition to using GuiXT, we've purchased GuiXT Input Assistant And that product allows you to not only modify SAP screens, but allows you to record basically like a macro would be on Microsoft Word or Excel. And we'll talk about that in some of the slides ahead. The key learning points today, we're going to talk about how we use GuiXT to enhance the customer create transaction and also reduce errors. But in addition to that, I'm also going to talk about exactly how we did that. Not in too much detail, but at least enough to get your feet wet on how GuiXT works and how you can accomplish your goals with GuiXT. So let's just talk about the customer create screen that we had. When we went live with SAP in 2009, we had an instruction manual that we sent out to users, and the customer create process included 34 steps and 11 screens. And the ship to create included 18 steps and 8 screens and 2 transaction codes. When you have instructions that are that complicated and there's so many fields and things for the user to see, what it ended up happening was we had training problems for one, but we also had missing and incorrect data. The end result was that users resisted creating new customers. They would just use existing customers or try to use a generic customer and over again change the address. And so we weren't able to really record the information the way that we wanted to for our customers or ourselves. And of course, any problems that resulted ended up in accounts receivable. Okay, so let's just take a look at the existing, in case you're not familiar with the existing transaction. I've highlighted in red just the areas that we really focused on when we created a customer, and we'll just kind of bounce through these very quickly. But basically, this is the way we were doing it. Let's see, we'd have our initial screens. You can see already just in these first 3 screens users would go through that there would be well over 50 fields here for them to look at, and that really they only need to focus on just a few areas. We also used some of the attributes. We used the first 4 attribute fields, and you can see that there's no description of what the attributes mean. More reason and more training required there. After they finish those, they'd have to go through these screens, and finally, these screens, last step being to assign a salesperson to the partner record and save. And as I said, it was a lot of steps, and we just had problem after problem in accounts receivable. So what we decided to do was to use GuiXT to streamline the process, and we were able to reduce the screens down to 6, steps down to 17, on the ship to down to 4 screens and 9 steps, just 1 transaction instead of 2. The approach that we use is different than some of the others that I've seen when I've looked at GuiXT demos. The approach that we used was more of like a Microsoft Wizard approach. Like if you're familiar with that, if you've ever installed software on your PC, basically what happens is when you go through the software install process, a little box will pop up and basically guide you through the process. And you'll see screen after screen. If it needs information, it'll ask. You'll fill it in. You'll hit enter. You'll click next to go to the next step. You can go backwards if you change your mind. And we decided rather than try to pull all the fields onto one screen, we decided to just use a more natural wizard approach, which you'll see. So the first screen of XD01, what we've done is we've taken off everything except for what needs to be seen, and we've added instructions to every screen. So no more need for documentation. The instructions actually online as you go through the process. So for example, a new customer create, you fill in your an unused customer number. You enter a reference customer number that you're going to copy from, and you click the new customer button. If it's a ship to, you leave the customer number blank. You enter the customer that the ship to is going to be applied to, and you hit the ship to button. As simple as that. Hitting enter advances the wizard. So as you hit enter through each step, it'll take you to the next screen. And the user sees only the information that's required. So let's go ahead and take a look at the process. The first screen that pops up is the address screen. Again, you're going to have your instructions about what's most important to verify at the top. And the user will fill out this information, optionally filling out partner information. next, after he hits enter, he'll be taken to the attribute screen automatically. He doesn't have to go through the menu. This will just pop up. And notice how we now have descriptive accounts of what each of these are. Hitting enter will take him to the customer sales area data sales screen, where he sees all of the information that we require. Enter will, from there, will take him to the tax screen with instructions in blue. And one final enter will take him to the area where he'll put in the outside salesperson for that customer. The Z1 will already be filled in, and the cursor will already be in this position. All we have to do is just type in the information, hit enter one last time, and the customer is saved and complete. For the ship to create, it's a very similar process. After the first screen and the first enter, the user will fill out the address. The first enter will take him to just the tax ID, and one more enter will take him, actually after the second enter, the customer ship to is saved, and the customer is automatically called up, and the ship to is added to the partner record automatically, and the user is then asked to fill in a description that you would see in order entry when selecting this partner. And one last enter will save that, and that's the entire process for ship to create. We allow the backwards and forwards buttons to be used just like in a wizard. You can go enter or press this button to go forward in the process. Backwards will take you back to the previous step. All the unused fields and tabs are hidden. We have on-screen instructions all the way through. There's also, if you notice on the screens, there's an easy button with the light turned on. That means that you're using the wizard. If you want to get out of the wizard and access other fields or do other things in the customer master, you can just turn this off, and now you're just back like you would be in normal SAP. The good thing is it feels like SAP to the user. Basically the GuiXT just puts SAP on a diet, I like to say, because it's half the weight. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, let's just take one slide as an example, before and after, and then talk about how I actually did this. This is the customer sales area sales tab, and this is the before and after. And here's the main points. Point number one is we've taken away all the buttons except for the backwards and forwards buttons. We've added the easy button so you can turn this control on and off. The third thing is we've taken away the tabs so the user doesn't have to worry about bouncing around to tab. For the fourth thing that we've done, we've actually taken the first three of these items and eliminated this fourth one. We don't use it, or at least it's just default. We don't actually fill that in as part of our process. And we've moved the customer group box down below it, so it all sits in one nice little compact piece here, and added the instructions. Let's take a look at in more detail how those steps are accomplished. Using GuiXT, basically every transaction, you can have a text file that's assigned to that transaction, and this is very simplified, but there's just a few commands that you need to know to just make a pretty big impact with GuiXT. For example, the taking away the additional buttons, there's a delete command, just DEL, and then a square bracket, and then just followed by the name of the button you want to get rid of. So I wanted to take out these 4 buttons across and just leave the backwards and forwards buttons on there. So I just put in the names, they're gone. It's save the file, it's as simple as that. There's no transports to move, nothing to compile. It can be just as quick as just saving the text file and you're finished. Now the backwards and forwards buttons that already exist, I wanted to override their behavior. So I wanted them to take me to the next step in our process, not the next step in SAP. So what I've done there is I've used the GuiXT Input Assistant product, which lets me record a series of actions. And it works just like if you would record a macro in Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word. You can just hit the record button. You can do whatever it is you want to do. You can go to different tabs, pull down menu items, fill out information, and then when you hit stop, you'll get a file that has the commands that you actually did in there, and you can actually run that file. Well, what I've done is I just recorded what I wanted to happen when the user hit back, and I recorded what I wanted to happen when the user hit forward or enter, and I saved those as two different files. And then simply just using this simple command, I was able to assign those macros to these actions. So if the user hits F7 or the back button, this macro will execute. If I hit forward or enter, this macro will execute, the sales tab macro. And that's pretty much it for step one. The easy button also uses GuiXT Input Assistant. And here's the syntax for actually adding a new button. This is just the push button command with the location of the button. And this just says the picture. The BG indicates the lights. Actually, the light's off. I got my pictures backwards. And BF is a light that's on. And then this is the recorded macro using GuiXT Input Assistant that executes when those buttons are pressed. You can see there's very little typing, very little to enter. Let's go to the next page. To remove the tab, it's very simple. Just the delete again and the name of the tabs, and those tabs are gone. Let's see, and then finally cleaning up the screen. Notice that there's a set command that you can use, and you just give the field name, and you can actually set default values. So here I've set the default of 3 of the values to 100 USD and 1. Then next I've deleted this production attribute or product attributes button off the screen. We don't need that. And then what I've done is I've made it all look good. So by the way, the double slash is a comment. So I've used the delete with the G qualifier for a group, and I've taken out the agency, business, and customer hierarchy groups. So everything inside of those boxes is completely removed with just this little bit of code. Then what I've done, because I also want to remove the sales order group, but I want to keep the customer group. So what I've done is I've moved the customer group out of the way so it's outside of that box, and then I've deleted the group. And then what I've done is I've removed it back into position at the bottom and scooted all this back up using the position commands. If you look at it, also the triple modifier at the end, what that does is it just tells you that you want to move all 3 pieces, the name, the field where you type, and the text at the end. It's really pretty simple. You can really make a big impact with just a few commands. Lastly, I've taken and used the comment command in GuiXT to add my comments to the screen, and the end result is what you see here. Some links that I use. This is my favorite. Whenever I'm doing any GuiXT work, I always have the second link on the screen at all times. It's the docu_e link. That has all the GuiXT commands in it and how to use them with examples. So whenever I'm doing any kind of GuiXT work, I'll make sure I have that on my screen, and I can refer to it as much as I need. And in summary, the thing I liked most about GuiXT was, as we've been going through the process of implementing SAP, stabilizing SAP, user training, that there's been a lot of products that I've looked at, but GuiXT was a product that I actually was truly able to get put in just a few hours, and actually within a day actually be doing productive work, actually taking steps out of user processes. We've used GuiXT throughout the system in all departments. We have over 200 scripts and recordings that we use in production every day. We use it to handle both simple and complex tasks. For example, in some areas, GuiXT will do something as simple as just change the tab order of the way a screen works. In other areas, I'm doing complex tasks. For example, in materials management, we actually do something similar to what WindShuttle does, where we'll actually upload a spreadsheet of materials, 100 materials, into and create new materials, source list, info records, all automatically using GuiXT. We use it across, like I said, we use it across the entire company. It's been an excellent ROI, and if I wouldn't have had this product for Go Live, I don't see how we could have went live on SAP. I really don't with the screens. Some of the screens, the way they are in training, we were just able to save so much user time, so much training. It's just been good. And I think that's pretty much it for my presentation.
Wow, Bill, thanks. Thanks a lot. That was a really fantastic presentation and a great testimonial. That was fantastic. So it looks like a number of questions have come in, but before we get to that, I'd like to let everyone know about the next couple of events, ASUG chapter meetings that we will be at. So if you plan to attend, please stop by and give us an opportunity to answer any other questions you might have. As you can see, the next chapter meeting is tomorrow in Portland. Nike, a GuiXT user, will deliver a presentation that is really worth seeing. And after that, our next ASUG chapter meeting is on the 23rd of June in San Ramon, California. There, Gino Padua, Synactive SVP of Field Operations, will deliver a presentation covering the highlights of our recently released GuiXT Office solution, how to transfer data from Excel and PDF to SAP with GuiXT. For more information about these meetings and other events in the future, please visit the events page at guixt.com. And one last reminder, if we are unable to address any questions today live, we will follow up with you via email. Also, in order for us to present topics that you want covered and for us to make these webinars informative, it's very helpful if you fill out the survey at the close of this presentation. Thanks in advance for taking the time to fill that out. Now let's begin the Q&A. Please welcome back Aparna Desai, our solutions engineer. And the first question, this one's for Bill. Do you have, Bill, do you have to push the files to user desktops?
No, you do not. What we do at Butler is we have a network share where the files reside. And I have my own machine I have set up to actually pull my GuiXT files from my local desktop, so that way I can basically do development. So what I'll do here is all my files will be pulled from my own machine. So if I make a change to one of them, then what I do is I just copy that file from my own drive to the share drive. And as soon as it hits the share drive, it's available to all users. There's also a setting in GuiXT where you can actually cache those shared files for performance. So we also cache them. So even though as soon as I copy them, they're not immediately available to the user, the next time that they sign in and sign out, they're available. So if we have a change that we have to roll out immediately, I'll ask them to sign off if they need it immediately, if we find an error or a mistake.
Great. Thank you, Bill. And then to add on top of that, the other option to save the scripts would be in the SAP web repository. There is a transaction called SMW0 using which you can upload the scripts into SAP, and then you can use your regular transport to move it across your landscape from dev to QA to production.
Another question for Bill here is who created the solution, or also how many people were necessary to create this?
I did all the work myself, and I had zero training. In other words, I didn't attend any classes. We just purchased the product, and within, like I said, literally within 24 hours, I was making scripts. You know, and I'm not. They do have training available. I think that would probably, you know, get you ramped up faster. But I have a developer background, and so you know, for me to pick it up, it was very easy. Everything that you need to know is on the Synactive site.
So you have a developer background, ABAP or et cetera?
No ABAP, but I had used, you know, back in school I had taken COBOL, some other languages, so I was familiar with, you know, looping and some of the other structures that you might need to do iterative type work, you know, in a programming language, so I was already familiar with those constructs, which we didn't see in any of these examples that I had today. But you know, so if you're not, you know, then I think training would be better for you. So, you know, so you can get a little bit of a background. But myself, with some developer experiences, I was able to pick it up, no problem.
Wow. So here's a follow-up question, actually. How long did it take to create this solution?
The recordings that I made, I would say probably about a day and a half to complete it and test it and roll it out. Actually, it took me almost as long, well, about to write up the documentation. Took not as long, but almost as long to do this, as to do the whole solution. Because I had to document, all the stuff, do a PDF. I had to do a WebEx, to show everybody how to use it. And so actually the training and preparation for that took longer than developing the solution.
Wow. I guess another question that's kind of on top of that, how long has the solution been, have you been using the solution?
I rolled it out in February this year. So actually we limped along for almost 2 years before I got around to this particular process.
Wow, okay.
Most of my work was all in, we're basically a sales operation. Almost everybody in the company sells. And so the main focus of most of the GuiXT work up to this point was in sales. And although creating customers is also part of sales, it was we mostly focused in VA 01, 02, and the the transactions that we use at the counter, bigger areas where we're having constant problems, iterative problems that happen over and over and over again. Customers aren't created constantly, so that's why it just took a little bit longer to get to.
Super. Here's a question for Aparna. Will this work with any screen and any IS solution? We have AFS.
Yes, GuiXT works with all transactions, all modules in SAP, including the IS solution. And we do have a few customers using GuiXT in the AFS solution, Wolverine, Justin Brands, or a couple of them that comes to my mind. But yes, it can be used in all IS solutions.
Here's another one for Bill. Have you gone through an SAP upgrade, and what happens during the upgrade if you have?
I have not, but what would happen is you would want to test your scripts. And so basically, as you could see from the presentation, that if SAP would change the text of its tabs or label, that could break your script. If you're trying to delete something and it's not there anymore, or if it's called something else. So although it's pretty unbreakable, and the main transactions it seems like they should stay pretty stable, it would still be good to do a run through just to verify that nothing's happened. Just like anything else that you do that's a change.
And also the other thing that you can do is while you're developing the solution, instead of using the field names, you can also use technical names, which don't change very often. But if the field is gone, then you might have to just tweak the scripts a little bit.
Right. It's much more flexible than, like, say, if I could add like a BDC, when you do a BDC recording, how I talked about Input Assistant and doing recordings of transactions. When you have a recording of something and it's something that's changed just slightly, you can just pull up the text file of the recording and just modify that one line that might be different, or take a piece out or add a piece in. You don't have to redo your whole recording. Once you know how to use the scripting, it's a very simple matter to fix and patch stuff without a bunch of redevelopment effort.
Great. Here's another one for you, Bill. Can you discuss which GuiXT products you use, i.e. what is included with SAP and what add-on products from GuiXT were used? Okay,
we use the GuiXT little checkbox button that you showed, and then we also have the Input Assistant that we use, and the Input Assistant is an additional product that you buy, and that's a product that I purchased, and that's the thing that lets you basically do the recordings and the scripting and string things together, and we use that heavily. Without it, basically all you can do is you can just delete and move around fields on a screen. And although that can be helpful and that might be all you need sometimes, a lot of times you want to do more. You want to just have actually string together a couple of transactions like I did in the Ship to Create, where it seems like one transaction, but actually you're executing an entire transaction in the background. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's basically the two that I use. There is a product that I have that's it's a visual editor. So rather than me just calling up a text file and adding the lines in by typing, you can actually, it shows a representation of the SAP screen. You can click on a field and tell it you want to delete it, and it'll write the code for you. I find that I can do it just as quick with a text editor, and generally I'm doing things that are more complex, and so most of the time I'm just so used to looking at the text that I just type.
Great. Another question, Bill. If you want to add fields from other screens or look up data in a database table, is that as easy to do?
I try not to move fields around from screen to screen, but yes, you can do it. And the reason I do is because when you move a field that doesn't belong onto a screen, there's a little bit more work you have to do. So if you don't have, and what that is you want the search help to work. And SAP, it has GuiXT has a facility whereby you can actually move the search help along with the field, to the new screen. But it's a little bit more work to get that to go. So unless I really need to do it, I don't. But I have done that. And then if you need to look up something in a table or database, it depends. In some cases, I will, let's say, for example, I would just, in the background using a recording, I would go to that screen where the information was and get it, and then come back, unbeknownst to the user in the background. And I would do that by calling a recorded macro. But what happens is that you're actually going to that transaction and coming back. So even though the user doesn't see it, and it definitely saves bandwidth if you're running over remote lines like we do, it still has to execute on the server. So if I have something that's going to be happening a lot, what I'll actually do is I'll write a ABAP function for it. So I'd actually write, like say I wanted to get, and this is something that I actually do, I want to pull the cost center from the user record. I'll actually just write a quick little function and save it, and then I'll call that function from GuiXT to pull the information in that I don't have to leave my screen. So those are the two methods that I use.
Bill, are there any usability issues that the users have complained about?
No. There's no usability issues. I mean, it's all up to you. So the usability issues I get were basically with SAP, and I use GuiXT to make those go away as much as possible. But yeah, with GuiXT itself, no. If we turn GuiXT off, basically people can't function.
Wow, great. I want to use that as a quote. Okay, I think we're kind of wrapping up here. Are there any more questions, Aparna? All right, let's do one more. Bill, did you know about GuiXT before going live about GuiXT before going live, I assume with SAP? If you did it all over again, would you implement GuiXT before going live?
Well, actually, I purchased it before going live, so we started before go live, and that's why I say we wouldn't have been live without GuiXT. We purchased it about 9 months before go live, and using it, we were able to get order entry in good enough shape that we could actually use it in production. And so, definitely, if I had to do it over again, yes, I would definitely do it because it would have been bad without it. And I also saw GuiXT demoed before we purchased SAP or decided to go with SAP as a product, and that was one of the reasons why we chose SAP. We were on a legacy COBOL system before we selected SAP, where the screens were pretty, making any kind of change or adjustment to a process was very difficult, and that was one of the things that I was very excited about when we came onto SAP. And I'd just also like to add that if anybody wants to actually see this thing, this actually in action, I know this was just PowerPoint slides. If you want to actually see a live demo of it, you're welcome to give me a call or shoot me an email. I can answer a question or show you live or show you a little bit more about the development process if you're interested. So I'm happy to help.
Oh, that's super. Thanks a lot, Bill. Did you look at using the standard SAP GUI editor?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
The question is, did you look at using the standard SAP GUI editor?
The SAP GUI editor. I mean, I just use a text editor for all my interaction with GuiXT, if that's the question. I use SE80 if I'm going to do any kind of, if I want to write a quick little ABAP query, you know, to get some data for me, I'll use that. But other than that, I just use a text editor for everything.
Okay, let's do one last question. Can this be used with Web GUI?
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, the answer is yes. You can use it for Web GUI. It works in exactly the same way. We have a one platform concept. So it's a one development tool, and it can be rendered through the regular SAP GUI, as Bill demonstrated today, also to the web SAP portals, mobile devices, smartphones, and you can also take it offline with just one development platform.
Great. So let's wrap this up. So once again, if you have any further questions, please send us an email at rfi@guixt.com. And don't forget the survey. And just to answer one other question here, can a copy of the slide presentation be emailed to webinar participants? You can actually find a recording of the presentation on our website. And it's very easy, and the whole thing is recorded, including the Q&A, and that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for joining us. That concludes our webinar today. And thanks again very much, Bill. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you all.